Welcome back to this random live on Monday. And today's topic that I want to talk about is the topic of black and white thinking and the consequences of it and what to do to get away from it if you don't want to be in that situation. So, I have come across three examples recently, and I wanted to highlight all of them so you can see from different angles of how that black and white thinking is coming across and how damaging it is, not only for you if you're using it, but for people around you. Right. So one of the classic example that I keep hearing, not only in the humanitarian world, but also in the government world that I was talking to someone here in Italy, but I feel like it keeps like occurring in so many different cultures as well. Is this example of a new boss coming over to take over the work, or new supervisor, new manager, right? And then the first thing that he or she says to the staff is, nothing is working. We have to redo things. Um, we have to do everything differently than it used to be. And it sounds a bit like politicians' language, but also it's some of the humanitarians that that they do, or in the government level. I have heard this many examples where basically the person who's the new incumbent is saying to everyone, this is not how we do things, it's wrong, and we need to do things differently, right? This is the message. Now, when you hear this message as the person hearing it, probably one of the things that you will think, and I have heard this also recently, is the way you think is like, oh God, again, there is always someone new coming over and saying everything is wrong and we need to redo things or we need to do things differently, right? So you probably have a bit of your motivation killed. You probably start thinking, well, it's now a time to be cynical about things because I'm so tired of everyone new coming over and saying how everything is wrong, right? And the managers coming over to want to prove to the people who hired them to say how great they are, and then you just feel like you don't want to be watching this show again, even though on the content you feel like nothing really will change because a lot of the systemic um, ways of doing things will not change, but then these managers will come in and try to change something or try to change things, and then you feel like it's not going to be changed. You feel like it's going to be maybe like some minor changes, but on the grand scheme of things, nothing will change. Therefore, you just feel like, ugh, another those type of shows or another those types of managers, right? This is probably what you will be feeling as a supervisee receiving hearing this from the new incumbent. And this is, in fact, what one of the people I got to know recently, who works for the Italian regional government here, and he was telling us this story, and I felt like it sounds so familiar. I have been in that rooms as well, and I have been in the rooms where I heard it, but I have also been in the room where I was the one saying it in some like indirect way, maybe, which I am not proud of it. But at the time, that sounded like something that I really wanted to do because I felt like I needed to prove. So that's was also me as a humanitarian doing it back in the day. So therefore, at the time, I think I never really thought of how it comes across to the people who I'm saying it to, right? So that's why if you are the person who's black and white thinking, if you are the new manager coming over and saying, it's all wrong, we need to redo things, then think about how it come across to the other people. Think about the consequences of those things to the other people, how it will make the other people feel who are hearing it, right? Because what that message really does is it's the message is saying that all the previous experience need to be negated or ignored or questioned or not right, and all the things that you've been doing until now is wrong, and I actually know better how to do things better, right? So either way, it's not going to come across as a positive message, I would assume. So therefore, like thinking about it in my own experience, also now I'm thinking about it. Oh my God, how could I have said those things as a manager? But I might have alluded to that at some point in my career. And I'm just saying that if you are in that position, think about this way of thinking of everything is wrong, or this is wrong, or uh, they don't know what they're doing, or nothing works. This is a chaos, and I'm here to like save the world or like save the situation. Will never come across as something appreciated. Unless, of course, you want to start showing it in your actions or start showing it without really announcing it, without really like saying it. But even then, I think if you come with that attitude of nothing is working, it will seep through you, it will come out. And that's not really going to help other people be motivated more. Now, the other example that I have heard recently, or actually seen recently, was two humanitarians that I was interacting, and I felt like that's also something that I see very often, or I used to see back in the day, but now, of course, I'm not maybe like socially in interaction with any humanitarians much, except in certain dinners and stuff. But one situation that I have seen recently reminded me of this example where a humanitarian receives a message or email, right? Looks at the phone and then like starts rolling her eyes and saying, "Oh, this is again one of those stupid things that someone did." And then telling the other person, another humanitarian, "Let me tell you this horrible thing that happened. Another like so and so did this stupid thing again, and now the department is going crazy, and so tired of this show, or I'm so tired of this stupidity." Or whatever it is, right? So imagine this type of scenario where, again, the black and white thinking is clear, where someone is stupid, they did something that I don't approve, they did it again, maybe according to the judgment of that person, right? And we say these things so often to ourselves, also to other people, to the people that we really trust, probably. We say this, oh, I can't believe this is happening. I can't believe this person is doing it. How could they, right? This type of energy. Do you know what I'm talking about, right? And then what it often does is not only that it makes you feel like frustrated and tired, and just like by even reading that message, probably you have this feeling of, right? This feeling of conflict, this feeling of a judgment, this feeling of the other so and so did this again, and then you disapproving them and then telling other people about them. That process alone probably frustrates and tires you, but also it kills your own motivation, right? It kills your own motivation of why you're doing what you're doing. It makes you even like more cynical, it makes you bitter, it exaggerates things, it doesn't leave any space for empathy for the other person, or even understanding for the other person of why they might be doing what they're doing, or you just keep like clogging yourself with so much judgment. And what I find the most horrible, again, you see my own language as well in terms of black and white thinking, right? The most grave consequence I find is that that energy makes exclusion more present. That makes that energy makes you feel like you want to exclude other people because you can only talk about this only with certain people, right? At the same time, excluding others that you disapprove of. Now, when it comes to work relationships, you don't really have a good work relationship with that person that you're judging about, because now you don't approve anything that they say, probably. And then in the direct conversation, probably you can't really say that, or you haven't really said that. But through that passive aggressiveness, probably you have shown it in so many ways. Or you feel like you need to be nice to that person, but then you feel like you're really betraying yourself, or you're not really being honest with yourself in terms of communicating with the other person, because you need to somehow co-work together or somehow communicate, continue doing that together. You see, on so many levels, what this does is, this type of black and white thinking does is that you keep showing to the other world again that you know better, you are better than the others, right? Or you immediately judging whatever that comes up from them. You're tiring yourself. You keep creating these small cliques of people where you keep sharing this and keep distributing this, while this all makes you feel like skeptic, kills your motivation. You don't really believe in the thing that you're doing anymore. You're just doing things for the sake of doing, but then you keep telling yourself that you know better than everyone else, or that person in particular, and that creates this a situation of exclusivity, where other people who don't belong to that circle feel like, um, I'm not really part of them. Do you see what I'm saying? So they're like, black and white thinking has so many of these negative consequences, and to not say the least, but um, basically deny, like negating or not recognizing the expertise of the other person. So the third example that I have seen in my own example as well, and I see many other humanitarians who have left the humanitarian world, or who have taken a leave, or maybe even they're like continuing working, but they have a lot of judgment about the humanitarian world. And I used to be one of them as well. And I feel like sometimes it comes up in my own conversation as well, which I'm watching and deciding what to do with them. But the black and white thinking that comes up in those conversations are something like, oh, nothing works in this place, everything is horrible. And maybe certain circumstances are horrible, right? Like war and people surviving, people having difficult time. Those are definitely horrible situations. I'm not even talking about them. But I think oftentimes we refer to how horrible it is in terms of how everything is not working, in terms of our delivery, in terms of what we're doing, in terms of the systems that are in place. We have a lot of judgment about them, especially in terms of like black and white thinking of either this or that. And then we create a lot of resistance, we create a lot of basically like survival language of reducing everything to either it works perfectly or it doesn't at all kind of situations. We make it so existential, right? So what we're doing in those moments, especially if we are people who are leaving the humanitarian world, we may have it in terms of carrying a lot of our resistance, a lot of our judgment of that world, and not letting go of it. Or if we are inside and continue telling to everyone how this is wrong, how everything is not going right, or how everything is not working. But then what we often do if we continue working is we often then go and meet with other counterparts, with our NGO partners, with our international partners, with donors, with government partners, right? We meet with them and then we need to justify certain things, or we need to explain certain things. And we feel like we're not really feeling anything. We feel disconnected. We feel like we're just performing and saying things for the sake of saying, even though we don't really believe what we're saying. We try to hide things, and then we feel like we're being hypocritical, or we are just overall not honest, basically, right? So these are the consequences that you can see of so much judgment, of black and white way of nothing works, everything's chaotic, and all of this. Now, I think I have described to you three very familiar situations, excuse me, that you can relate to. And I often find myself, even now, even if I'm not working in the humanitarian field, but I interact with a lot of humanitarians, of course, I hear what they're saying. I hear a lot of their stories, and then I find myself like relating to my stories of back in the day. And then I find myself so much in this all or nothing thinking, or without nuancing things, right? Without really wanting to understand why things happen the way things happen. So, if we don't want to be in that space of black and white thinking because of our world being very complex, we understand, and also that there are always nuanced situations that we really need to look at it. What I suggest that you can start doing is one of the ways that you can start looking at is how can you find the middle or the one that is not either or, right? What is in the middle and how can I find it? So, for instance, if you are thinking in terms of like judging someone so much of they're stupid or they're this and they're this, and that's why we're having this problem now, right? Instead of being in that either that person or this one and being in that space, but rather trying to understand as to why they might have done what they have done, or having compassion or empathy for the other person or for yourself in terms of being frustrated and saying, okay, yes, I'm frustrated. I thought things would go very fast. I thought I would do things in this way, but things didn't go. So having compassion and empathy for yourself or for the other person, and start looking at, okay, what are the things, what is the next thing that I can improve or I can resolve, without spending so much energy on blaming them, bad mouthing them, or yourself or the system. Because unless we're working on improving the system in specific particular ways, just keeping all of this black and white thinking about how bad the system is and how bad this is or that is, how wrong this is not going to solve the problem, right? The immediate problem that we're solving in that moment. So recognizing that, and I was thinking about it like leveling up from where I am to the next thing in terms of, okay, I could sit around and being all frustrated or all spending so much energy on judging this one or that one and all of this. Or I could remove all of that noise, all of that unnecessary draining energy, but rather focusing on, okay, what is the one thing I can improve, or what is the one thing that I can solve? What is the one thing I can discuss with that person that moves the needle, that gets me to somewhere in the fastest way without spending my energy unnecessarily on things that in the end makes me feel even worse, right? That way I can protect my time, my energy, um, my motivation. At the same time, I keep working on things to moving forward instead of regressing myself, instead of putting myself in the existential of nothing or to the zero, or regressing to or reducing my experience to nothing, right? Instead of doing any of those extreme things, but rather, how can I move forward one at a time, one step at a time, one level at a time, one increase at a time, one improvement at a time if I don't have energy for big leaps or big jumps, right? So that's really the first thing that I would love for you to do, which requires you not only trusting yourself that you can do this, trusting the other person that you can both find a solution, trusting that even if the certain things are not working, there are still leeways for you to maneuver around and find a solution for the people that you're serving, for the people that you're wanting to be of service, right? So that's why that could be like, that could also require you to have empathy, compassion for yourself, for the other person, and then keep moving forward. So that's the biggest thing that you could do. The other thing that is super useful that I find that I'm working on it myself currently as well is what is exactly not working and how can we move forward with this instead of looking at the giant thing. And it's a very similar to the previous one in terms of one level up. But what this question often makes me like feel is coming to the feeling of grounded and peaceful place where I can really look at it. Okay, what is exactly is not working that I believe is not working, instead of making it about me or about the other person or about like too many unnecessary emotions, pollutions around it, I find, but rather, okay, this thing exactly is not working, or my theory of this thing is not working, or I theorize or I hypothesize. I make hypothesis, right? And then start working on that one particular, and that removes again all the other things of this is wrong, everything is bad, or this is stupid, or whatever, but rather, okay, what is it that I'm not happy about? What is it that I'm not getting? What is it that I uh, thought I would get from the other person and I didn't? And what do I want to do with it? And making it very like clear, super focused on something instead of on the general things, right? And the third one is I really think of it like I'm trying to, for myself at least, imagine being the person who does not have all of this like unnecessary noise or like created by that black and white survival thinking. And I'm trying to imagine myself being the person who's so good at focusing on what matters the most and being the person who carries out what that matter is, and then getting things done in that way rather than being the person who spends a lot of time um, trying to solve in that way things that I know cannot be solved by keep thinking black and white, or keep blaming someone, or keep blaming myself, or keep saying how everything is bad and all of these things. I know that that will not solve anything, and not only it will not solve anything, it will actually exacerbate and worsen the situation, and it puts me back to the ground zero, I feel. and and me not being that person and not entertaining being that person at all, and then just saying I don't want to be that person. I don't want to spend time uh, thinking about or entertaining or growing those black and white thinking, or contribute to it if someone else coming over to do that with me. Not doing any of those stuff, and then just like removing myself from all of that noise or all of that unnecessary judgment, or the energy that I don't want to be, like washing myself every time, as if you will, with my thought work, with my coaching, and then removing all of this and being that, continuing being the person, and like directing my brain to being that person who focuses on what matters and how to uh, get that thing done, or how to talk to the other person so we can get things done together. And then being in that understanding space, being in that empathetic space, being in that loving space, and being in that supporting space. That's what I really invite you to like direct your mind towards every time. It's not easy, sometimes I forget it, but then I'm like, okay, let's be that person again. So, my dears, that's why I would love to invite you to coach with me on this, exactly being that person, whoever that person is for you. That is like, for me, it's the person who has a very focused, bold energy to be the person who loves and understands other human beings, at the same time tries to focus on what really matters and get to that together, instead of entertaining all the things that I know are not good for me, including black and white thinking. So, Have an amazing week, you all. And it's been a pleasure to talking to you, and I will speak to you very soon.